These are our guided practice problems from section module 11. These are 7.2 trig integrals. Remember that we do something different if we have an odd power than if we have all even powers. In this case, I've got an odd power, so I am going to move one of those away. So I'm going to separate one out to match up with my dx. And then I'm going to convert the rest of them to the opposite trig function. So I'm going to make that into cosines. So that is sine squared gives me the fourth power. And I'm going to convert the sine squared using my identity. We know that sine squared x is 1 minus cosine squared x. It comes from sine squared plus cosine equals 1. So I can replace that. And I'm going to leave that, and then that sets me up to use my u substitution. So I'm going to u sub for cosine. Du is negative sine x dx. Move that negative to the other side. So sine x dx is negative du. That allows me to substitute for this piece. Then I just have to sub in my u for cosine. So this becomes the integral of 1 minus u squared du. If I square that, that becomes 1 minus 2u squared plus u to the fourth du. And then we can take the antiderivative. That's u minus 2/3 u cubed plus 1/5 u to the fifth plus a constant. And then lastly, to get back to our x's, we're going to plug our cosine x back in. So that's cosine x minus 2/3 cosine cubed x plus 1/5 cosine to the fifth x plus a constant. And that's problem number 1. In problem number 2, I don't have any odd powers, so I'm going to use my double angle formulas. So I know that this is cosine squared t squared. And I'm going to substitute for cosine squared t. And cosine squared t, if you go up and look at your identities, is 1 plus cosine of 2t over 2 squared dt. So then I'm going to go ahead and square it. So there's a 2 on the bottom. That's going to pop out as a 1/4 because you got to square it. And then when you square the numerator, you have 1 plus 2 cosine of 2t plus cosine squared 2t dt. Those first two are fine. Integral of 1 plus 2 cosine 2t. I have antiderivatives for those. But for cosine squared 2t, I'm going to use that double angle formula again. So I'm going to have 1/4 times the integral of, and cosine squared 2t right here. In order to use my double angle formula, I'm going to double the 2t to a 4t, and that's going to give me 1 plus 1 plus cosine of 4t over 2 dt. And that gives me the 1/4, the integral of 1 plus 2 cosine 2t dt plus 1/8 integral of 1 plus cosine 4t dt. And now I know my antiderivatives. So I've got a 1/4 out front. Antiderivative of 1 is t. For cosine 2t, we get a 1/2 that pops out of a baby u sub. Antiderivative of cosine is sine 2t. And then over here we have 1/8. Antiderivative of 1 is just t. For cosine of 4t, we get a 1/4 that pops out of a baby u sub. Antiderivative of cosine is sine. Keep the same argument. Plus a constant. And that gives us 1/4 t plus 1/8 t gives us 3/8 t. So I'm combining this one and this one. And then I have, 1/4 sine of 2t. And I have plus 1/32, the sine of 4t, plus a constant. And that's my answer for number 2. And then lastly, for number 3, this one has an odd term there. So we're going to make that sine to the 6th of x times cosine squared x times the sine of x dx, right? So I pull one of the sines over with the dx. I'm going to convert the sine to the 6x to cosines, right? So if this is my cosine x, I want everything else in terms of cosine. So I'm going to make this sine squared cubed and that's going to become 1 minus cosine squared x cubed times cosine squared x times sine x dx. From here, I'm going to use my u sub. So u is going to be cosine. Du is negative sine x dx. Move the negative to the other side. So when I sub here, I get a negative. Negative that pops out in front. My cosine becomes u, so it's 1 minus u squared to the 3rd times u squared. The d sine x dx is my du. Right, I already put the negative out front. Now you've got to go ahead and multiply this all out. So you've got to go with 1 minus u squared squared times 1 minus u squared times u squared du. I never said these would be short. All right, if we square it, it's 1 minus 2u squared plus u to the 4th. Multiplying that by 1 minus u squared times u squared du. All right, so then we're going to get some big stuff going on here. So I should get 6 terms. 1 minus u squared minus 2u squared plus 2u to the 4th plus u to the 4th minus u to the 6th. All times u squared du. And this is negative the integral of 1 minus 3u squared plus 3u to the 4th minus u to the 6th, all times u squared du. Now I can distribute a negative u squared. So that becomes the integral of negative u squared plus 3u to the 4th minus 3u to the 6th plus u to the 8th du. Now we're ready to take the antiderivative. Negative 1/3 u cubed plus 3/5 u to the 5th minus 3/7 u to the 7th plus 1/9 u to the 9th plus a constant. And I can resub my u back in to get negative 1/3 cosine cubed x plus 3/5 cosine to the 5th x minus 3/7 cosine to the 7th x plus 1/9 cosine to the 9th x plus a constant. All right, and that's where we stop, right? That's the end of our guided practice. So that one had quite a bit going on, but it always starts from separate one of the odd power terms and move it over with the dx, convert everything else to the opposite trig function, and you can go from there.